Of where it says Omamar. This goes back to the Braisa that we learned yesterday, where it brings the four Rishuyas. There's a Rishus HaYachid, a Rishus HaRabim, a Carmelis, and a Makim P'tor. And here we're going to discuss the Carmelis. The Carmelis is a Rishus that Chazal wa Geyser, that you should not carry from it to a Rishus HaRabim, from it to a Rishus HaYachid. You should not carry 4 Amas within the Carmelis either, even though Minat Teira, it's a Makim P'tor. The word Carmelis, by the way, what is the translation of the word Carmelis? The Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch brings that the word Carmelis is Ke Armelis, which means like an almana. This is a rishus that's like an almana that has no husband, which means it's in between. It's not a Rishus HaYachid, it's not a Rishus HaRabim. It's in between. And Chachamim will geyser to give it the chumrah of both, or as we'll see soon, there's also kolos that they said regarding Carmelis. But that's the source of the word. There are other pirushim, but this is the pshat that Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch. So Omar Mar, we're about 5 to 10 lines from the bottom of Vav Amud Beis. Omar Mar, the master explained before regarding Carmelis. Avol Yam, the sea, Bika, open valley with fields in it, Vais Tevanis, and the area where the benches are in front of a store, Viha Carmelis, and also the Carmelis, which Gemara will soon explain what this means. Einon, loike Rishus HaYachid, v'loike Rishus HaRabim. They are not a Rishus HaYachid and not a Rishus HaRabim. So the Gemara addresses Bika. A Bika is an open area of fields. Bika eina loike Rishus HaYachid v'loike Rishus HaRabim. Is it true that a Bika is not a Rishus HaYachid and not a Rishus HaRabim? V'atnan be learned in a Mishnah. So here the Gemara will bring a Mishnah in Masechta Tares. The concept of Rishus HaYachid and Rishus HaRabim applies not only for Shabbos, but it also applies to the halacha of Tumah and Tara. By Tumah and Tara, there's the following halacha. Anytime there's a suffik Tumah, what do? Are you machmer for the suffik tumah or are you mekel for the suffik tumah? So the answer is, we learn out from a saita that if the suffik tumah comes up in a private place, then we're machmer. Just like in the case of a saita, where she secluded herself with a person privately and we're machmer, she has to drink the waters of the saita. So too, anytime there's a suffik tumah, we're machmer. So that's in the Rishus HaYachid. Anytime the suffik tumah comes up in a public domain, in the Rishus HaRabim, we're mekel. Over there, we don't, the suffik tumah is tahir. So now the definition of Rishus HaYachid and Rishus HaRabim for Shabbos and for tumah and tara are not exactly the same. When it comes to our saita, what we learn out from saita, the main thing that defines the suffik tumah for Rishus HaYachid, it has to be a private area, the privacy, just like the source. So we learn it out from saita, privacy. Shabbos, what defines it as a Rishus HaYachid is not the issue of privacy. It's the walls that surround it that make it into a Rishus HaYachid, but there's no issue of privacy. So therefore there's a difference. Let's see in the lashon of the Mishnah inside. Vatnan, we learned in the Mishnah in Masechta Tares. Ha Bika, a valley, an area of fields. Bimai Sachama, in the summer. So in the summer it's not seeded, it's not planted. So it's just an open field, which is not planted. So Rishus HaYachid l'Shabbos. As far as Shabbos is concerned, it has the halacha of Rishus HaYachid, because it's a place which is not, people don't walk through it. But Rishus HaRabim l'tumah, but it does have the halacha of Rishus HaRabim, because since it's not planted in this part of the year, so people do sometimes pass through there. They're not walking on any seeds or on any plants, so people do walk through there. So for Shabbos it's called Rishus HaYachid, but for tumah it's not private enough, and therefore it's called Rishus HaRabim. B'mai sagishamim, in the winter when it's planted, Rishus HaYachid, lekan ulekan. So because it's planted, it's very private, people don't walk there, it's going to be a Rishus HaYachid for both Shabbos and for Tumah. So you see clearly in this Mishnah that you have this open area of a Bika, doesn't have walls surrounding it, and yet...
It's sloped in?
Possibly. That's not, I mean, even if it is, but the slope is very, very gradual, and it doesn't have necessarily surrounded by walls. There's no walls surrounding it. And still, what does it say? That it's a Rishus HaYachid for Shabbos. Amar Ula, so Ula answered, L'olam Carmelis. When it says in that Mishnah Rishus HaYachid, it doesn't mean it's really a Rishus HaYachid. It really means that it's a Carmelis. Carmelis Havya. V'amai karilo Rishus HaYachid. Why does the Tana refer to it with the term Rishus HaYachid? Lefi she'eina Rishus HaRabim. Since it's out of the category of Rishus HaRabim, regarding Tumah, it's a Rishus HaRabim, so once it's out of that category, he refers to it as a Rishus HaYachid. But really, it's in between. It's a Carmelis. That's all his answer.
How would you notice it?
How would you
notice it?
Notice what?
A Bika.
What do you mean? An open valley, an open area where people plant their grain, throughout the year.
Where does it start? Where does it stop?
Huh?
Where does it start? Where does it stop?
There's the road where people are traveling, and then there's inside, further in from the road, where there are fields that people plant.
Belongs to somebody, no?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
The ownership of any area does not turn it into a Rishus HaYachid. If you have a lake, a river, a pool of water that's owned privately, doesn't turn it into a Rishus HaYachid. Shabbos, the definition of Rishus HaYachid has nothing to do with ownership. It's a certain definition of the domain that has to be a dalet al dalet, and it has to have a geder of 10 tvachim surrounding it. That's what makes it a Rishus HaYachid. If you don't have those two conditions, it's not a Rishus HaYachid. Ravashi says a different answer. Here, we're talking actually about a bika, fields that are planted or not planted if it's in the summer, but they have walls surrounding them. There are mechitzas, there's fences. And this is also based on what Ula said in the name of Rabbi Yechanan. What did he say? Karfif yoser mi beis asayim. A karfif is an area it's fenced in, but it's a very, very large area. It's more than Beis Asayim. Beis Asayim is 50 by 100 amas. Okay? Which is what? 5,000 square feet.
5,000 square.
Right? So that's a area which is square amas, that is, not square feet, exactly. A karfif, a large area which is enclosed by a fence, but it's more than Beis Asayim. It's more than 50 by 100 amas. The Azara, the Beis HaMikdash, Mishkan, was 50 by 100 amas. So over here we're talking about an area that's larger than that. And another detail, shaloi hukaf ledira. It was not enclosed as a private area for the purpose of somebody that's living there. It's enclosed privately. It's like, for example, a park that has a wall around it, but nobody lives there. And even afilu kor, afilu kurayim, or even a kor is 30 saw. So this is kor would be 15 times the size of this karfif that's more than Beis Asayim, or korayim, or two kors, which is 60 saw, 60 square saw, which would be 175,000 square amas, a large area which is enclosed by a wall. So what's the halacha? Min ha'Torah, this space is a Rishus HaYachid. What makes an area a Rishus HaYachid? The fact that it's enclosed with a fence. It has a 10 tvachim fence around it. That makes it a Rishus HaYachid. The size of how large it is doesn't take away anything. It's still a Rishus HaYachid.
But so you're saying like a park?
Yeah, like a park, but if it's enclosed by a fence.
Yeah.
However, Chachamim were geyser, since it's such a large area and it resembles a Rishus HaRabim, so Chachamim were geyser not to carry in it. So over here, Hazayrik l'toichai chayiv. If you throw from a Rishus HaRabim into this fenced-in area, which is so large, you're chayiv, because Menatayr it's a Rishus HaYachid. My time mechitzehi. There is a wall surrounding it, and therefore Menatayr it's a Rishus HaYachid. Elo shemuchuseres diyurin. It's an area that people don't live there, and therefore it resembles a Rishus HaRabim, and therefore mechuseres diyurin. So therefore, Chachamim were geyser that you're not allowed to carry in it. So when it says before that you have this open area, this bika, that in this summertime, it could be a Rishus HaRabim l'tumah. What are we talking about? We're talking about a bika that has a fence around it, but it's a very, very large area. And because it's such a large area, it resembles a Rishus HaRabim. It doesn't have that privacy. It's not used privately for a person that lives there. And therefore, it's not the regular kind of Rishus HaYachid. Minat Torah, it's a Rishus HaYachid, but Chachamim were geyser that you're not allowed to carry there. That's what the Mishnah that we quoted from Taris is talking about.
A city with an Erev, living there, you have to bring the Erev.
Yeah, it's a different story. So the Gemara asks a question. We understand why Ravashi did not want to learn like Ula. Because Ula is saying, when the Mishnah said Rishus HaYachid, it's not meduyik. It doesn't mean Rishus HaYachid. All it meant is it's not a Rishus HaRabim. So we understand why I didn't want to say that. Ella, however, Ula, my time why didn't Ula himself interpret this Mishnah like Rav Ashi did? Rav Ashi used a statement that Ula himself said in the name of Rav Yechanan. So the answer that he gives is the Islam mechitzes bika karila karfifi. If we're talking about a place that has walls surrounding it, why would the Mishnah call it a bika? A bika means an open area with no wall surrounding it. If it has a wall surrounding it, it has a different terminology that we refer to it as. It's called a karfif. So therefore, Ula did not want to say that this Mishnah that says Bika is referring to a fenced-in area. Ravashi refuses to learn like Ula. Rishus HaYachid Katani. Does the Mishnah, Rishus HaYachid Katani. The Mishnah says Rishus HaYachid. How could you say that when it says Rishus HaYachid, it means not Rishus HaRabim, it means Carmelis, it says clearly Rishus HaYachid. So either way you learn, whether you learn like Ravashi, whether you learn like Ula, the wording of the Mishnah is not precise. Now the Gemara goes back to the Braisa we had before. What did it say? Veha Carmelis. What is Veha Carmelis? Otu Kulu Nami Lav Carmelis Ninu. The other things, the details that it mentions, they are not a Carmelis. The Yam, the Bika, the Stavanis, they're all Carmelis. Why is it mentioned separately Carmelis? What is that? After the Gemara, Ki Yasser Avdim Yom Rabbi Yechanan, Leinitzracha Elo Lekeren Zovis Hasmucha Rishus HaRabim, a corner that's near the Rishus HaRabim. What is this corner near the Rishus HaRabim? So Rashi gives two pshatim. One pshat that Rashi says is you have the row of houses at the side of the street, but then you have one house that's set in further. So because it's set in, so the traffic traveling in the Rishus HaRabim could sometimes enter into that area while they travel. They push themselves into that area to whatever, circumvent traffic or whatever it is, because the house is set in. But it's sort of a keren zavis. You have to go in and out. It's not so convenient to travel there. Or another example, Rashi says you have a row of houses that are all on the side of the road, and they're all, the front of the house is facing the road, and then you have one house that's built diagonally, and it's not facing the road the same as all the other houses, and then you have, because it's sort of built as a triangle shape, and that triangle is facing the Rishus HaRabim, there is that area that people could enter outside of the regular road. They could enter into this corner of the two sides of the house because it's a triangle. So the point is, it's not part of the regular play area of the street where people are going. It's in a corner in the house that's set in. That's the concept of Carmelis that the Braisa mentioned. Which is near the Rishus HaRabim. So why is this a Carmelis? What's the Chiddush here? Sometimes when the traffic is very heavy, the Rabbim squeezes into that area and they travel there. Since it's not convenient to travel there, you have to go in and then come back out. So therefore, it does not have the din of a Rishus HaRabim. It has a din of a Carmelis. It doesn't qualify to be a Rishus HaRabim, doesn't qualify to be a Rishus HaYachid, and it's a Carmelis. So now, based on this, the Gemara is going to discuss different scenarios in the Rishus HaRabim where you have certain obstructions that don't allow you to travel conveniently in the Rishus HaRabim. And the question is it part of the Rishus HaRabim, or because of those obstructions, it loses its status as a Rishus HaRabim, it becomes a Carmelis. So the Gemara will bring certain examples here. Between pillars that are placed, that are dispersed in the Rishus HaRabim. These are pillars that were placed in the Rishus HaRabim for merchants, to place merchandise on it. They were selling people merchandise and they would have these pillars in the Rishus HaRabim. So in between those pillars where it's inconvenient to travel, like the regular area of the Rishus HaRabim, has the halach of a Carmelis.
In the Rishus HaRabim?
Yeah. It probably wasn't exactly in the center of the road. It was probably more towards the side of the road. So people could travel on the regular side of the road. But towards the side of the road, there was these amudim that the people would sell their merchandise there. My time. So why is this a Carmelis? Many people step in that area and do go there. But you can't walk directly and openly without any obstruction. That area has the halach of a Carmelis. Benches that are set up in front of these amudim. So the amudim is to hang the merchandise, and then there's benches as well, maybe for to sit or to hang other merchandise on it. Nidin Carmelis also has the halacha of a Carmelis. People are not walking on these benches. So now the Gemara explains. The one that says that between these pillars, where it's not easy to walk there, and that has a din of a Carmelis, kol sheken itztaba. Definitely on the benches itself, it has the halacha of a Carmelis. The one that says that the benches have a halacha of a Carmelis because the Rabbim doesn't work there, it's only the actual benches that people cannot walk in that area. It's not nichat hashmishtei. Between the amudim, even though it's not an open area that you can walk directly, you have to walk in between, but yet it's an area that many people walk there, it still has the halacha of Rishus HaRabim. Lishna achrina, another version of how this halacha was said, the same idea, but another little bit of a different version. Avo beina amudim, between the amudim, the zimnin, the darsi le rabim. Sometimes during the time of heavy traffic, the rabim does travel even between these amudim. So therefore, kirashus rabim damya. As the halacha of Rishus Harabim, and this is the halacha in Shulchan Aruch, Alter Rebbe brings it, that when you have a big Rishus Harabim, even if there's some kind of obstructions, I don't think you have any poles today, but you have sometimes in Rishus Harabim, the street light poles or chveis, other kinds of benches that are in Rishus Harabim, so between the street light poles or benches, even though it's not mamish, a space where the Rabbim, the cars drive and it's all open, still, on the benches itself, it's not a Rishus Harabim, as halacha of a Carmelis. But in between, where people can walk, that's part of the Rishus Harabim.
Bus stop. Bus stop, no? The
bus stop is a sort of an obstruction. Okay, so the actual bus stop itself is almost it has a roof usually on top of it. So then anything that's makura is not part of a Rishus Harabim. It's not daimel diglei midbar. But any other street light poles and other things that are maybe certain obstructions in the Rishus Harabim, when they have different, they have these, not only benches, sometimes they have these things that they place in order to, for security purposes, all kinds of obstructions. But if people walk through it, it's still considered to be a Rishus Harabim. Amar Rabbi Bar Shila Amar Rav Chisda. Leveino zekufa b'Rishus Harabim, a brick that you stand up in the Rishus Harabim. So Rashi says that this brick is 3 by 3 tfachim in the width and the length. How about the height? Rashi says the height varies. It could be 5 tfachim tall, it could be 10 tfachim tall. The height varies. So you have this leveino that's sitting in the Rishus Harabim. Vizarak, and he threw something in the Rishus Harabim 4 amas, which you're not allowed. That's also the malacha, 4 amas. V'toch b'foneha, and it landed on the side of the brick. So Rashi says we're talking about some kind of a fatty fig, or maybe a piece of clay or cement, of something that sticks to the side of the wall. Chayiv. So if it lands there, you're chayiv, and Rashi explains what we're talking about over here. It landed on the side of the brick below 10 tfachim. And therefore that's part of the Rishus Harabim. As we know, Rishus Harabim does not extend higher than 10 tfachim. Or maybe it even landed lower than that. It landed on the side of this brick below 3 tfachim. Anything below 3 tfachim is like it landed on the ground. Al gaba. How about if it lands on top of the brick and it's higher than 3 tfachim? Then potter. Then you're going to be potter because that area that it landed on top of the brick is a makim patur. It's not part of the Rishus Harabim. If it's higher than 3 tfachim, the Rabbim don't walk on it. So therefore it's separate from the Rishus Harabim and you potter. Abai and Rava both explained for Husha Gavaya.
Higher than
That what?
Nobody's walking there also.
No, in a Chanami, but at the side of it, it's in the airspace of the Rishus Harabim. What landed, that's considered that it landed in the airspace of the Rishus Harabim.
But it's higher than 3.
Even higher than 3 tfachim. You can lower or higher in the side, and as long as it's lower than 10 tfachim, it's like it landed in the Rishus Harabim and Yechayev. If it lands on the top, so then that's a separate Rishus, it's a flat area, which is it's a makim patur and Yepater. And Rabbi and Rava both say, Vuhu shegavaya shloisha. It has to be this brick, the height of this brick is at least 3 tfachim, dolei darsi la Rabbim. So the Rabbim don't walk in that area, they go around it, and therefore that's not part of the Rishus Harabim. Aval hizmi v'higi. How about if you have in the Rishus Harabim some thorns, which make it very difficult and inconvenient for a person to walk there? Even if these thorns are not the height of 3 tfachim, it also is not going to be a Rishus Harabim because a person doesn't want to hurt himself by walking into these thorns. So a person walks around these thorns. So that area where there's bushes or thorns, even if it's below 3 tfachim, it's not part of the Rishus Harabim. Chiyeh Barav disagrees, and he says, Afila hizmi v'higi. Even an area where there are thorns in the Rishus Harabim, still it's part of the Rishus Harabim. If a person is dressed properly, he has good footgear, so he's not afraid of getting hurt by the hizmi v'higi, and he'll walk straight through the thorns. So it's an area that people sometimes do walk through.
Only kids would do that.
Aval tzaya. However, if there's tzaya under the Rishus Harabim, nobody wants to step on that. Loi. That's an area that everybody walks around, even if it's less than 3 tfachim, and therefore that area is not part of the Rishus Harabim. Ravashi disagrees, and he says, Afil tzaya. Even tzaya under the Rishus Harabim is also part of the Rishus Harabim. There's various shittas in the Rishonim why this is. Some say the reason is because tzaya is not something which is always noticeable. and therefore a person might end up walking in that area. If it's in the middle of the Rishus HaRabim and it's in the middle of the traffic and people are going, people don't notice necessarily where they're walking, and people end up walking in that area as well. And other Rishonim say, even if it's an area, the Rashba says, even if it's an area that people walk around and they don't walk on the tzaya itself, but as long as this tzaya is less than 3 tfachim, then it's part of the Rishus HaRabim. Any obstruction in the Rishus HaRabim that's below 3 tfachim is like part of the Rishus HaRabim. And it's below 3 tfachim is loved, it's part of it. Sagt die Gemara weiter, Omar Rabbe de Beir Rav Shile, ki Yosser Rav Dima Rav Yochanan, ein Karmelis pchusa me'ar bo. The Carmelis that Chachamim will geyser, that it's a reshus for itself. You don't have this Carmelis if it's less than 4 by 4 tfachim. And then Rav Sheshes said, V'toifeses ad asara. And the Carmelis goes until 10 tfachim. So the Gemara will not question what exactly this statement means, that a Carmelis is until 10 tfachim. My v'toifeses ad asara. What did Rav Sheshes mean when he used this expression that said that it's toifeses ad asara? Does he mean to say that if it has a fence 10 tfachim, then it's a karmelis? And if it does not have a fence of 10 tfachim, it's not a karmelis. Could that be true? Bias. What's if you have a house with a very low roof? It does, in the inside of the house does not have the height of 10 tfachim. It's pretty low. If you're going into such a house, you have to crouch. It's not a very high roof. But then the kiruyoi mashlimoi lasara. But the actual thickness of the roof itself does complete it to the height of 10 tfachim. And when you're standing on top of the roof, it's 10 tfachim above the ground. But inside, below the ceiling, it's not 10 tfachim. So what's the halacha? Al gagoi, so on top of the roof, because it's 10 tfachim off the ground, you're allowed to carry there. It's a reshus hayachid. Bekuloi, inside of it, mutal taltal bekuloi, you're allowed to carry on top of the entire roof. Be'toichai, inside of the house, a metaltalim by eladal damas. You're only allowed to carry within dal damas, but not more, because it doesn't have the walls, it doesn't have a fence of 10 tvachim. What makes something go to reshus hayachid? Only if it has a fence of 10 tvachim. If it has a fence, a wall that's less than 10 tvachim, even if it has a roof above it, it does not have that height of the fence for a reshus hayachid. Even if it's an enclosed area, the chachamim will geyser that it's a karmelis and you can't carry there more than 4 amas. Inside the house, yeah. So, it is a makim mekuda, and therefore it's not a reshus harabim, but it's also not a reshus hayachid because it doesn't have the height of 10 tvachim. So obviously, a karmelis is not an area that has to have a mechitza of 10 tfachim high. Elamai v'teifeses ad yud. What did Rav Sheshes mean when he said teifeses ad yud regarding a karmelis? The ad yud hudav a karmelis. Only up until 10 tfachim is it a karmelis. Lamayla mi yud tfachim, higher than 10 tfachim, lo have a karmelis. It's not a karmelis. Higher than 10 tfachim, there's no karmelis. Just like we say regarding a reshus harabim, that higher than 10 tvachim, there's no reshus harabim. The same thing also regarding a karmelis. Higher than 10 tvachim, there's no karmelis. Rashi says that this Gemara refers to a case where it's landing on the side of the wall, not when it's landing on a platform on top. Because if it lands on a platform and it's above 10 tvachim, and it has a 4 by 4 area of a platform, so then it's a reshus hayachid. It's not a karmelis. It's above 10 tvachim, and it has an area of 4 by 4 tvachim. It's not a karmelis either. It's obvious. It's the reshus hayachid. We're talking over here when something lands on the side of the wall, so where there's a din of a karmelis, and not a reshus hayachid, that's only below 10 tvachim, not higher than 10 tvachim. V'chiha the amalei Shmuel Rav Yehuda, and this is a similar statement that Shmuel said to Rav Yehuda. Shinana, the Gemara uses this expression many times regarding Rav Yehuda. You sharp and wise man. Shinana means sharp. Don't discuss matters of Shabbos regarding higher than 10 tvachim. What was he telling him? Where is he telling him to ignore the halachas of Shabbos higher than 10 tvachim? Lamai hilchasa. Regarding what did he say this? Was he telling him that higher than 10 tvachim you don't have a reshus hayachid? That's not true. Rav Chisda told us, and the Gemara at the bottom of the next Amud, tomorrow we'll learn about this more. If you stick a kona, a stick into the ground, in the reshus hayachid, and it could be very tall, this stick is very tall, v'zarak v'nochal gabav, and you throw and it lands on top of the stick, even if it's 100, it's a stick which is 100 amas tall, chayiv. You're still chayiv. In other words, the point he's saying is the height of the Rishus HaYachid goes all the way up l'rakiyah. There's no limitation in the height of a Rishus HaYachid. Whatever surface it lands on, even if it's very, very tall, it's still a Rishus HaYachid. The ear space of the Rishus HaYachid, oile ad l'rakiyah, goes all the way up to the sky. So that's not what he was telling Rav Yehuda. He wasn't talking about a Rishus HaYachid. Ella rather, the Ein Rishus HaRabim l'mayla miyud, was he coming to tell him that there's no Rishus HaRabim higher than 10 Tvachim? Masnisin he. This we know already from a Mishnah. That now we learned in the Mishnah, Zayrik Dal Damas Bekaisel, a person threw 4 Amis in the Rishus HaRabim and it landed on a wall. L'mayla miyud Tvachim, if it lands above 10 Tvachim, Kizayrik Pa'aver. It's like you threw it in the ear and not the Rishus HaRabim. Above 10 Tvachim, it's a Makim P'tur. It's not a Rishus HaRabim. L'matam miyud Tvachim, if it lands on the wall, on the side of the wall, below 10 Tvachim, Kizayrik Ba'aretz, it's like you threw it on the ground and that's part of the Rishus HaRabim. So it's a clear Mishnah that higher than 10 Tvachim, there's no Rishus HaRabim. Ella a Carmelis. Rather, Shmuel was telling Rav Yehuda regarding a Carmelis, the Ein Carmelis l'mayla miyud. There is no gzeira of Carmelis higher than 10 Tvachim. So now the Gemara goes back to those two statements that we had before. It said that there's no Carmelis in an area that's less than 4 by 4 Tvachim, and there's no Carmelis higher than 10 Tvachim either. So the Gemara explains, Va'akilu ba'Rabbanan, the Rabbanan were lenient, Mikulei Rishus HaYachid u'Mikulei Rishus HaRabim. They applied the leniency of Rishus HaYachid and the leniency of Rishus HaRabim to the Carmelis. Mikulei Rishus HaYachid, they applied the leniency of Rishus HaYachid. The I'ikim Makim Arba Hudavya Carmelis. If it has the space of 4 by 4 Tvachim, then they were geyser that it should be a Carmelis. V'iloi, but if not, Makim P'tur Ba'almahu. Then it's just a Makim P'tur. There's no gezeira of the Chachamim there. The Kulei Rishus HaRabim, and they also applied the leniency of Rishus HaRabim, the Ad Yud Tvachim Udavya Carmelis, up until the height of 10 Tvachim, there's the gezeira of Carmelis, L'maylam Yud Tvachim, higher than 10 Tvachim, Lo Yavi Carmelis, there is no existence of a Carmelis.
What is it there?
Huh?
What's higher?
Higher than 10 Tvachim, there's no gezeira of Carmelis.
What is it?
Makim P'tur. It's a Makim P'tur, correct. Yeah. Now the Gemara brings back the case we had before with this house that has a very low roof. Very, very low roof, less than 10 Tvachim, and the person is inside his house, he's, I guess, crouching inside his house. Is he allowed to carry inside his house less than 10 Tvachim? Gufa. Amarav Gidl, Amarav Chia Bar Yosef, we learned before. Amarav, Bayis She'ein Toichayud, a house that does not have an interior that's tall 10 Tvachim. But the Kiruyai, the actual roof itself, Mashlima Yud, completes its height to 10 Tvachim. Al Gagai Mutal Taltal Bakulai, on the roof, you could be metaltal any item as much as you want, because it's a Rishus HaYachid, but Bisaychai, inside of it, it does not have the walls of 10 Tvachim, a metaltal by El Badal Damas. You can only move around an item within Dal Damas, it's like a Carmelis. So Abaye says an interesting din. Omer Abaye. Ve'im chokak boy dalad al dalad. How about if a person finds an area in this house and he digs in the ground? And an area of dalad al dalad tvachim, he digs that tefach that he's missing for the height. So he digs in the floor of the house and he's mashlim it to the height of 10 tvachim. Im chokak by dalad al dalad v'shlima liyud. And now in that area of dalad al dalad, he completes the height to 10 tvachim. So then, you're allowed to carry not only in that area of dalad al dalad that you dug in the ground and it has the height, but even in the rest of that house inside which does not have that height, you're still allowed to carry in all of it. Why? If only a specific area has the height and the rest of it does not have that height, why would you be allowed to carry? And for the Gemara, the reason is, the rest of the area, even though it doesn't have that house, that height that is, but still it could be compared to chayrei Rishus HaYachid, like holes in a wall of a Rishus HaYachid. When you have a Rishus HaYachid that's surrounded by 4 walls, and inside the walls there's holes, and you use those holes to store things inside of it, the holes that are facing the Rishus HaYachid are bottled to the Rishus HaYachid and have the same status of the Rishus HaYachid, because the people inside the Rishus HaYachid use those holes in the wall. Part of the Rishus HaYachid. V'chayre Rishus HaYachid k'Rishus HaYachid damu. A hole in Rishus HaYachid is like a Rishus HaYachid. And therefore over here as well, when you have a house that has a low roof and there's one area that you dug in the ground and it has the proper height, the rest of the area surrounding it that does not have the proper height is considered to become bottled to that area that does have the proper height. Because it's servicing, it's sort of part of that one area that has the proper height. That's the chiddush of this Gemara here. And Tosfos points out that this is different than it is when you get to Hilchas Sukkah, which means you could have an area which has walls around it, and then right in the center of that house, you make this little area that you dig in the ground, and it's daled bal daled, that it has the height of 10 tfachim, and it's far from the walls. Let's say it's 10 tfachim away from the walls. It's not very close to the walls. Still, the whole thing will have a din of Rishus HaYachid. When it comes to Sukkah, and you want to combine the walls to the schach, or the walls to the sukkah, it has to be less than 4 tfachim in order to combine the walls to the schach. Over here, we're using the walls of this house for the Rishus HaYachid, even though you may have made this chakak, this area, for the height of 10 tfachim in the center of the house, and it's very far away from the walls. Because over here, the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch explains, the main point of the walls is to separate from the Rishus HaRabim. So it doesn't matter if it's near the area which is a Rishus HaRabim or if it's further out, doesn't make a difference. By a sukkah, the walls itself is part of the sukkah. The walls make the actual sukkah itself. The walls have to be near the schach, at least within 4 tfachim. And there's a din of doifen akuma there. Mashenkin over here, by the Rishus HaYachid, the point is to separate from the Rishus HaRabim, and therefore even if it's further out, it doesn't matter. So now the Gemara, it brought up this concept of a hole in a wall. It talks about the holes in the wall that are facing a Rishus HaYachid, that are used by the people in the Rishus HaYachid, and it talks about the holes in the wall that are facing the Rishus HaRabim and are used by the people in the Rishus HaRabim. So what did we say? The holes in the wall that are facing the Rishus HaYachid, there is the Rishus HaYachid. Right? But the Itmer, we learned, Chayre Rishus HaYachid, Rishus HaYachid Damo. Chayre Rishus HaRabim, the holes in the walls that are facing the Rishus HaRabim, do they have a din like the Rishus HaRabim? Abaya Amar Rishus HaRabim Damo. Abaya says yes, it's like a Rishus HaRabim because the people of the Rabbim place their items there. Rava says no, lav Rishus HaRabim Damo. It's not part of the Rishus HaRabim. It's a Rishus for itself. If it has 4 by 4 tachim, it's going to be a Carmelis, this hole in the wall. If not, maybe it won't be a Carmelis, but it's not part of the Rishus HaRabim. You're arguing and saying that the holes in a wall that's used by the Rabbim has the status like the Rishus HaRabim. What's the difference between this, a hole in a wall, and the case we mentioned before in Amar Aleph? What did he say? The Gemara there said before, when you have an area which the house is set in, and the Rabbim squeeze into that area to travel, that's what's called a keren zavis, that's not part of the Rishus HaRabim. That's a Carmelis. If you're telling me that holes in a wall that are facing the Rishus HaRabim, people use it, and therefore it's part of the Rishus HaRabim, so an area where people squeeze into there when there's traffic, why shouldn't that be part of the Rishus HaRabim? And for the Gemara, so Abai said to him, it's not the same thing. Hasam loy nichat tashmishtei. Even if it's an area that people squeeze into when they travel, but it's not convenient to travel there. You have to go in, you have to come out. It's not a convenient area. So it's not part of the Rishus HaRabim. Hacha nichat tashmishtei. Here, it's very convenient for people in the Rishus HaRabim to place their items in a hole in a wall, in a ledge or in a hole in a wall. So that's a very convenient area of usage for the people of the Rishus HaRabim, and therefore it's bottled to the Rishus HaRabim. Tanan. So now the Gemara brings back the Mishnah that we had before. A person throws Dal Adamas in the Rishus HaRabim, and the item lands on the kaisel. If it landed above 10 tfachim, kizayrik baver. You're throwing it in the air. It's a makim ptur. It's not part of the Rishus HaRabim. If it landed below 10 tfachim, kizayrik baretz. So then it's like you threw it on the ground. That's part of the Rishus HaRabim. And the question was asked on this: my kizayrik baretz. What does this mean, kizayrik baretz? It didn't land. Where did it land? Are we talking about a case where a person throws something and it bounces off the wall? It says you threw it at the wall. So if it bounced off the wall, so then it didn't land 4 amis. It bounced back. So what are we talking about over here? So here the Gemara brings what I mentioned already before. Rashi says, a person threw a fatty fig and it landed on the side of the wall. Now, this is the pshat that Rabbi Yochanan said in the Mishnah. It landed on the wall. How can it land on a wall, on the side of a wall? A fatty fig. Now, if Abai is right, and a hole inside the wall, because it's being used by the people in the Rishus Harabim, it's part of the Rishus Harabim. Why do we have to say that the Mishnah is talking about a fatty fig that's landing on the side of the wall? Why not say it's talking about a pebble or any other small item? And you threw it at a wall in the Rishus Harabim and it landed inside the hole of the wall. And that's what the Mishnah is talking about. You don't have to say it's talking about a fatty fig. So the Gemara gives two answers to this. Zimnin Mishani Law, sometimes he answered this question, Shani Tzra v'chayfetz the meheder. The nature of a pebble that you throw it and it lands inside a hole, to throw something on a wall and it should land inside the hole of the wall, exact aim, and it should stay there, right there inside the hole of the wall. You have to have really good aim for that. Usually you throw it even if it enters into the hole, but it goes in and it bounces back out. Comes back out. Zimnin Mishani Law, sometimes he answered, B'kaisel de les bachar. It's talking about a wall that has no holes in it. That's what the Mishnah is talking about. How do we know? Mimai. From where do we know it's talking about a wall that has no holes in it? Midiktani Reisha. What does it say in the Reisha of the Mishnah? Zorak lamayla miyut tvachim. If he threw and it landed on the wall higher than 10 tvachim, kizayrik ba'aver. It's like throwing it in the airspace, and it's not. It's a mokim ptor. Now, if we're talking about a place where the kaisel has a hole and it landed inside the hole, why is this considered like he threw it into the airspace? It landed inside the hole of the wall. And if it landed inside the hole of the wall, maybe that hole inside of the wall should be considered a Rishus HaYachid for itself. And therefore you're throwing it from Rishus HaYarabim into a Rishus HaYachid. The Gemara's assumption over here is, as we're going to see in a moment, that the wall has a thickness of dalid al dalid tvachim. So the hole inside the wall is dalid by dalid tvachim, and it's higher than 10 tvachim. If it's higher than 10 tvachim, and the hole inside the wall is 4 by 4 tvachim, it's not really a hole, it's sort of a ledge inside the wall, and you throw a pebble from the Rishus Harabim and lands over there inside this hole in the wall above 10 tvachim, that area is a Rishus HaYachid. So therefore, why would it say that it's kizayrik ba'aver? It landed on a space which is a Rishus HaYachid. Now, if you're going to argue and say masnisin the les buhu daled al daled, the hole in the wall does not have the space of a daled al daled. So therefore, it's not going to be a Rishus HaYachid, even though it's above 10 tvachim, because it doesn't have the minimum space of daled al daled. But that doesn't still work. You throw an item higher than 10 tvachim, and it landed in the wall, which is a tiny hole, a little hole in the wall. It's a kol shehu. Is that area that it landed in a Rishus HaYachid or not? And again, the walls that we're talking about in the Zman of the Gemara here is a wall that's 4 amis wide, 4 tfachim that is, 4 tfachim wide. So, but the actual hole is a koshu, is a tiny hole, but the wall itself is 4 tfachim wide. So he says that if it lands in that area, it could be considered a Rishus HaYachid, even if it does not have the minimum space of 4 by 4 tfachim. Banu l'machleikis Rab Meir v'Rabbanan. The Gemara connects this to a machlokes of Rab Meir and the Rabbanan regarding the halacha of a mezuzah. What's the minimum space of a doorway that's required for a mezuzah, to be chayiv in a mezuzah? It has to be 4 tfachim wide and 10 tfachim high. What happens if you have a mezuzah that's 4 tfachim wide and it is 10 tfachim high as well, but it's an arch, it's a rounded archway. So therefore it's not 10 tfachim high, it's not 4 tfachim wide completely. Because of the rounded archway, so in that area, in the corners, it's not 4 tvachim wide. At the bottom, it's 4 tvachim wide. But in the rounded archway, it's not 4 tvachim wide. Is it chayiv in mezuzah or not? Rab Meir Savar, Rab Meir's opinion is, chaykikin lahashlim. Because the actual bricks of the walls of this doorway has that additional space, we consider it as if it's been carved out and it has that full space of 10 tvachim by 4 tvachim needed. We include for the space also the areas of the thickness of the bricks, even though it's a rounded archway. It's a halacha that we consider it as if it's been carved out.
The corners.
And it's been like a square corner, yeah. Rabbanan say, ein chaykikin lahashlim. It has to physically have that space. Just because the bricks of the archway have that space, we don't consider it as if it's been carved out. So over here as well, when you have a little hole in the wall itself is 4 by 4 amis, 4 by 4 tfachim, and there's a little hole. Do I say that it has a little hole, and that chor is a chor kolshehu? That's it. That's all it is. Or do I say, it's true it's a chor kolshu, but the bricks of the wall have the space to widen this hole to a 4 by 4 tvachim. So just like by the mezuzah, where it's missing the full space, I consider it as if it's been carved out, and I have the full space for the mezuzah. I say the same thing over here regarding a hole in a wall. Because the wall itself has that measurement, that size, it's as if it's been carved out fully to have the full space of 4 by 4 tvachim. That's Rab Meir's opinion. Helolav, Shema Minah, Bekaisel, the less Bechor, Shema Minah. So I must say that we're talking about a wall that has no holes. If the wall has a hole in it, and you throw in Rosh Hashanah and it lands in a hole in the wall, according to Rab Meir, that would be a Rosh Hashanah. And the Mishnah says that it's Avir, it's not Rosh Hashanah. So therefore we're not talking about a hole in the wall, rather what are we talking about? A person threw a fatty fig and it landed on the side of the wall.
There was 4 tvachim on the bottom.
At the bottom, correct.
Just extending it over here.
Oh, very good question. I believe Taisus talks about this. That's a very good question. Huh? It has at least the beginning of the shear at the bottom, and then you just over here it's l'chatchila chor kolshehu. Correct. Taisus talks about this question.